The crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across the marble floors of Le Chateau, Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant, where a single dinner reservation cost more than most people earned in a month. But Marcus Ashford wasn't thinking about the price as he sat alone at his usual corner table, staring at the untouched glass of whiskey before him. The billionaire tech mogul had everything money could buy: 3 homes, a yacht, a private jet, yet tonight, on his 45th birthday, he'd never felt more empty. The board meeting earlier that day had gone exactly as planned. Another acquisition, another billion added to his net worth, another round of applause from shareholders who saw him as a golden god. But when he'd returned to his penthouse, there was no one waiting. No wife, she'd left 2 years ago. No children, he'd been too busy building his empire. Just silence, expensive and suffocating. Marcus loosened his tie and surveyed the restaurant. Couples laughed over candlelit tables. A family celebrated what looked like a graduation. Everyone seemed to possess something he'd somehow missed in his relentless climb to the top. He'd come here hoping the familiar luxury would comfort him, but it only amplified the hollowness. "More water, sir?" A gentle voice interrupted his spiraling thoughts. Marcus looked up to see a young waitress, probably in her mid-20s, with kind eyes and a warm smile that seemed genuine despite the late hour. Her name tag read Sarah, unlike the other staff who approached him with practiced deference, mixed with barely concealed awe. She looked at him like he was just another person. "Sure," he muttered. Then on impulse, perhaps because he was tired of his own company, perhaps because loneliness makes people do strange things, he added, "You know what? Sit down for a minute." Sarah's eyes widened. "Sir, I'm working. I could get in trouble." "I'll make sure you don't," Marcus said, gesturing to the empty chair across from him. "Consider it a request from a customer. Humor me. It's my birthday, and apparently I'm having a crisis." Something in his voice must have conveyed his genuine need for human connection, because Sarah hesitated, glanced around, then slid into the seat for just a moment. "Happy birthday, then," she said softly. "Are you okay?" Marcus let out a bitter laugh. "I have $4 billion and I can't answer that question." "Pathetic, right?" "Not pathetic," Sarah said thoughtfully. "Just human." For reasons he couldn't explain, Marcus found himself talking. Maybe it was because she was a stranger who didn't want anything from him. Maybe it was because her eyes held no judgment. He told her about the emptiness, the success that felt increasingly meaningless, the relationships he'd sacrificed for numbers in a bank account. Then, wanting to deflect from his own vulnerability, or perhaps to test her, to see if she'd reveal herself to be just another person dazzled by wealth, Marcus leaned back with a smirk that didn't quite reach his eyes. "You know what? You seem smart. I'm terrible with money, clearly. Why don't you give me some financial advice?" His tone was mocking, meant as a joke. After all, what could a waitress possibly tell him about managing billions? Sarah tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. When she spoke, her first words hit him like a physical blow. "The problem isn't that you don't know what to do with your money, Mr. Ashford. The problem is that you've never learned the difference between value and worth." Marcus froze, the smirk dying on his face. "What?" "You asked for advice, so here it is," Sarah continued, her voice gentle but unwavering. "You're one of the richest men in the world, but you're bankrupt in every way that actually matters. You've accumulated value, stocks, properties, assets, but you've lost your worth. Your worth as a human being who connects with other human beings. Your worth as someone who makes a difference in individual lives, not just market shares." The words should have angered him. He was Marcus Ashford. People didn't speak to him this way. But instead, he felt something crack open inside his chest. A wound he'd been ignoring for years. "I work 2 jobs, Sarah continued, her eyes distant now, as if seeing beyond the opulent restaurant. "I'm here 6 nights a week, and I clean offices in the mornings. I'm putting myself through nursing school while supporting my younger brother, because our parents died 3 years ago in a car accident. I have $217 in my bank account right now." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "And you want to know something?" Sarah's eyes met his again. "I'm rich. Not in money. But yesterday, my brother got accepted to college. Last week, an elderly patient I've been caring for during my clinical hours squeezed my hand and told me I saved her life just by listening. This morning, my neighbor, who I've been helping with groceries, left fresh cookies at my door with a note that said, I was her angel. That's wealth, Mr. Ashford. That's return on investment that actually compounds into something beautiful. Tears burned unexpectedly in Marcus's eyes. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to be that. Yes, you do, Sarah said, standing up as her manager shot her a warning look. You just forgot. Money is a tool, not a purpose. You can use it to build walls around yourself, or you can use it to build bridges to other people. The choice was always yours. She started to walk away, then turned back. My shift ends in an hour. There's a shelter 3 blocks from here where I volunteer sometimes, serving meals to homeless families. If you actually want financial advice, real advice, come see where I invest my time. See what dividends look like when you're dealing in human dignity instead of dollars. Then she was gone, leaving Marcus alone with his whiskey and his thoughts. He sat there for 30 minutes, her words echoing in his mind. Every defense mechanism he'd built screamed at him to leave, to forget this conversation, to dismiss her as naive. But that crack in his chest had widened into a chasm, and for the first time in decades, he could feel something other than the endless hunger for more. Marcus paid his bill, including a $2,000 tip for Sarah, and walked the 3 blocks to the shelter. The building was shabby, nothing like the gleaming towers he was used to, but inside, there was something he hadn't seen in years, genuine human warmth. Sarah was there, wearing jeans and a simple t-shirt, ladling soup into bowls, for a line of people who looked at her with gratitude and affection. When she saw Marcus, she didn't seem surprised. She just smiled and handed him an apron. Welcome to the real market, she said, where the only currency that matters is kindness. Marcus spent the next 3 hours doing something he'd never done, serving others with no expectation of return. He talked with veterans who'd lost everything, single mothers working 3 jobs, kids who dreamed of futures they couldn't afford. Each conversation was a revelation, each smile a dividend more valuable than any stock option. A little girl named Emma, maybe 7 years old, tugged his sleeve as he was cleaning tables. Mister, you look sad. Want to see my drawing? She showed him a crayon picture of a house with stick figures holding hands. That's my family, she explained. We don't got a real house right now, but we got each other. That's what Mama says is most important. Something broke completely in Marcus then. He knelt down to Emma's level, and for the first time in years, he cried. Not quiet, dignified tears, but real, gut-wrenching sobs for everything he'd lost while gaining the world. Sarah found him like that, sitting on the floor with Emma patting his shoulder. She didn't say anything, just sat down beside him. I've been so stupid, Marcus whispered. No, Sarah said. You've been lost. There's a difference. Lost people can find their way back. That night marked the beginning of Marcus's real journey. He didn't give away his fortune. Sarah's advice had been smarter than that. Instead, he learned to use it the way she used her time, strategically, purposefully, to create value that actually mattered. He established scholarship funds managed by people who understood struggle. He bought buildings and turned them into affordable housing. He hired Sarah as a consultant, paying her way through nursing, school while learning from her about investment in human potential. More importantly, he showed up, not with checks from a distance, but with his presence. He served meals, mentored kids, listened to stories that couldn't be quantified on any spreadsheet. A year later, Marcus sat in the same corner table at Le Chateau. But this time he wasn't alone. Sarah was there, now a registered nurse, along with her brother and a table full of people whose lives had intersected with his through service and genuine connection. Emma and her mother were there too, living in one of his affordable housing units, with Emma thriving in a good school. As they laughed over dinner, Marcus caught Sarah's eye. Thank you, he mouthed. She smiled, the same genuine smile from that first night. You did the work. I just reminded you of the blueprint. Marcus raised his glass, looking around the table at faces that had become precious to him. To the best financial advice I ever received, he said. Invest in people, not portfolios. Build worth, not just value. As everyone echoed the toast, Marcus felt something he'd chased for decades but never found in boardrooms or bank accounts. He felt rich, truly, deeply, impossibly rich. And it had nothing to do with the numbers in his accounts and everything to do with the people around his table, each one a dividend from investments, made in kindness, humility, and the radical act of seeing others as more valuable than victory. The billionaire had asked for financial advice as a joke, but the waitress had given him something infinitely more valuable. She'd shown him the way home to his own humanity, and that, Marcus realized, was worth more than all the billions in the world.